been hunting the Hollywood Ripper for 6 weeks. The kills didn't match what the police were reporting. 12 bodies drained of blood across California, Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego, but no witnesses, no crime scene evidence, no acknowledgement of what was actually killing people. Just empty apartments and families who wouldn't meet my eyes when I asked questions. My handler at the Hunters Council had passed on authorizing lethal force. Too high profile, she said. Too much media attention. Gather intelligence first, eliminate later. So I went independent, tracked the pattern myself. 3 of the victims were members of Temple Beth Shalom in Santa Monica. Friday evening services. Always Friday evening. I slipped into Shabbat with my silver-loaded Glock hidden beneath a borrowed prayer shawl, tactical knife strapped to my thigh under dark pants. The sanctuary was peaceful, families celebrating together, children laughing, candles flickering against ancient Hebrew prayers carved into limestone walls. I felt like an intruder in sacred space as I settled into a back row, trying to blend with the congregation. Then I smelled it. Not candle wax. Not incense. Gasoline. The first explosion hit from below. The floor buckled beneath me. Muffled, distant, like something massive detonating in the basement. Several people looked around, confused rather than terrified. The rabbi paused mid-prayer, hands still raised over the Torah. The second explosion was louder. Closer. Stained glass windows shattered to my right, raining colored fragments across wooden pews. A woman screamed. Then another. Children started crying. Then I smelled it, acrid, choking, immediate. Smoke. Chaos erupted. People bolted from their seats, shoving past each other toward the main doors. Parents grabbed children, elderly congregants stumbled. Someone knocked over the menorah, scattering flame across carpet that caught instantly. The rabbi was shouting in Hebrew, trying to restore order, but his voice drowned in panic. I stood, hunter instinct overriding everything else. Get out. Survive first, investigate later. Black smoke poured through ventilation grates, thick and toxic. It moved like something alive, spreading across the vaulted ceiling, fingers of darkness reaching toward us. The temperature spiked. My eyes began watering. I pushed into the center aisle, fighting against the current of bodies. The main exit was clogged, people screaming, crushing each other in their desperation. I turned, scanning for alternatives. Side door. Emergency exit. Fire escape. That's when the ceiling gave way. Not all of it. Just a section above the bima where the smoke had concentrated hottest. Support beams, original construction from the 1950s, dried timber and old plaster, collapsed inward with a sound like the world breaking open. Dust and ash exploded outward. I raised my arm to shield my face, took 3 steps backward. Something massive hit me from behind. Pain exploded through both legs, sudden and absolute. I went down hard, temple slamming against broken pew. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Just white-hot agony radiating from crushed muscle and possibly shattered bone. When my vision cleared, I understood what had happened. A support beam had crashed into the pew behind me, driving it forward like a battering ram, pinning me between splintered wood and limestone floor. My legs were trapped from mid-thigh down. I tried to pull free. Couldn't budge. Tried to push the debris. Might as well have been pushing a building. The smoke was descending, a black ceiling lowering with every second. Already I was coughing, lungs burning. My Glock was somewhere beneath the wreckage, crushed and useless. Help! My voice came out raw, barely audible over crackling fire. Somebody help me. But the sanctuary was empty now. Everyone had fled. Smart. Survival instinct. I would have done the same. I was going to die here. 29 years old, hunter trained since 19, about to burn alive chasing a vampire I'd probably never even seen. The heat intensified. Flames climbed the eastern wall, hungry and orange, consuming prayer books and tapestries. Through the smoke, I could see the Ark burning, the Torah scrolls inside turning to ash. Sacred texts older than my grandparents lost. Then I heard footsteps. Heavy. Purposeful. Coming from the main entrance. Moving toward me, not away. Here. I tried to shout, but it came out as a cough. I'm here. A figure emerged through the smoke. Tall, broad-shouldered, moving with a grace that seemed impossible given the conditions. He wore dark clothing, long coat, tailored pants, already streaked with ash. But he wasn't coughing. Wasn't struggling to breathe. He moved like the fire couldn't touch him. Our eyes met through the haze. His were pale, silver or blue, I couldn't tell in the chaos, and ancient. Impossibly ancient. Intelligence that had witnessed empires rise and fall stared back at me from a face that looked maybe 35. And I knew. I knew what he was. The heat was unbearable now, flames climbing the ancient walls like hungry serpents. Through the smoke, I saw him, a figure moving with impossible grace through fire that should have killed anything human. His eyes met mine and I knew. I knew what he was. The very thing I'd sworn to destroy was walking toward me with purpose, and I was helpless to stop him. If you need to know whether the monster saved me or finished what the fire started, subscribe now. Because what happened next changed everything I thought I knew about good and evil. I woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific. For a moment I couldn't remember where I was. Then everything rushed back. The synagogue, the fire, Justin's impossible strength lifting that beam like it weighed nothing. The way he'd carried me out while the building burned behind us. My legs ached, but the pain was manageable. Dr. Tanaka had said I was healing faster than expected. Some kind of accelerated recovery the vampire blood in the air had triggered. I didn't want to think about what that meant. The guest room door was unlocked. I tested it carefully, half expecting guards or locked corridors. Nothing. Just a hallway lined with art that looked centuries old, leading to other rooms I hadn't explored yet. I found the library by accident, drawn by the smell of old paper and leather. It was massive, 3 stories of floor-to-ceiling shelves accessed by wrought iron staircases. Books in languages I recognized and dozens I didn't. Spanish, Latin, what looked like Arabic and Hebrew. Chinese characters on spines so old the binding was cracking. This wasn't a collection. This was a lifetime. Multiple lifetimes. I pulled a volume at random. Philosophy. Aristotle in the original Greek, margin notes in handwriting that looked medieval. Another book. Medical texts from the Renaissance, illustrations of anatomy that predated modern understanding by centuries. A third, California land deeds from 1847, signed in Spanish when this territory still belonged to Mexico. Evidence of his age scattered across every shelf. Then I found the cabinet tucked in an alcove. Locked, but hunter training made short work of basic security. Inside, documents wrapped in protective sleeves. Treaties. Accords. Signatures from names I recognized. Historical figures who shouldn't have been signing agreements with supernatural entities. The Peace Accord of 1723. Drafted in London, renewed every 25 years. Vampire representatives on one side, human leaders on the other. A promise of coexistence, mutual protection, shared territories. My hands shook as I flipped through renewal documents. 1748, 1773. 1798, each generation adding new signatures, new promises. Then I found 1998. My father's name printed in his careful engineer's handwriting. Luis Gomez. My mother's beside it, Teresa Gomez. Witnesses to the renewal, advocates for peace, believers in cooperation between species. They died honorably. I spun around. Justin stood in the doorway, still as sculpture, watching me with those ancient eyes. Protecting children from a rogue coven in Seattle, he continued. 3 vampire extremists who rejected the accord. Your parents evacuated a school before the attack. Saved 42 lives before they were overwhelmed. My throat closed. The council said they were murdered by random vampires. Senseless violence. The council lied to you. He moved closer, each step deliberate. They weaponized your grief, Angelina. Turned you into a hunter pointed at the wrong enemy. Because a soldier who believes she's avenging her family is far more effective than one who questions her orders. You're manipulating me. I have no reason to lie. You're here whether you trust me or not. He pulled a laptop from his coat, opened files that made my blood freeze. Hunters Council Internal Communications. Mission Reports. My recruitment file with psychological assessments. Subject shows appropriate trauma response. Hatred of vampire species will ensure operational effectiveness. Recommend fast-track training. They'd evaluated my grief like a resource to exploit. Konstantin Volkov killed your parents, Justin said quietly. He leads the faction that wants war with humanity. He's the one who burned that synagogue. He's the one hunting you now. I wanted to call him a liar. Wanted to believe this was elaborate manipulation. But the documents were real, council letterhead, official seals, signatures I recognized from my handler's reports. Everything I'd believed for 10 years was built on lies. That evening, Justin took me to downtown Los Angeles. Showed me vampires living among humans, owning cafes, running blood banks that provided ethical feeding alternatives, working as doctors and teachers and engineers. Isabella operated a donation center that paid humans fairly for voluntary blood supply. Gene worked emergency medicine at County General, his immortality allowing him to perfect trauma surgery over centuries of practice. This is what your parents died protecting, Justin said. What we've built together. Then I watched a rogue vampire attack a woman in an alley. Watched Justin and Nadia neutralize the threat in seconds with efficiency that spoke of centuries of practice. Watched Justin execute the rogue without hesitation, without mercy. The accord has consequences, he said, wiping blood from his hands. I lay in the guest room that night, staring at the ceiling, replaying my father's signature on that document. He'd known. He'd worked with them. And the council had turned me into the thing he'd spent his life fighting against, a soldier in an unnecessary war. Tomorrow I would demand answers. Tomorrow I would confront Justin about everything. But tonight I let myself cry for the parents I'd never really known. Day 4 found me in the sanctuary's training room with Nadia. She moved like water, centuries of combat experience making every strike economical, precise. I blocked, countered, got thrown into the mat for the 5th time in 10 minutes. You're skilled hunter, she said, offering me a hand up. But you fight with anger. Anger makes you predictable. I wiped blood from my split lip. Anger kept me alive. Against rogues and newborns, perhaps. Against an original. She smiled, fangs barely visible. You'd be dead before you drew your weapon. We went again. This time I focused on technique over rage, reading her movements instead of reacting to them. I lasted almost 30 seconds before she had me pinned. Better. She released me, genuine respect in her ancient eyes. You remind me of him, actually. That same stubborn refusal to surrender. You've known Justin long? Since 1793. Paris. The Revolution. She retrieved water bottles from a mini fridge that seemed absurdly modern in a house full of antiques. If I'd met you then, I'd have killed you without hesitation. We evolve. Some of us. Justin appeared in the doorway that evening, face grim. Volkov's planning an attack on a blood bank in Venice Beach. Tonight. Isabella's facility. My stomach dropped. The woman I'd met 3 days ago, the one who'd built an ethical feeding system from nothing. When? Midnight. They're stealing blood supply to frame us for medical theft. Release it to media, break the secrecy protecting the accord. He looked at me directly. We go tonight. You can help or stay here. I was already reaching for my gear. I'm coming. The blood bank was dark when we arrived. Justin, Nadia, me, and 3 other vampires whose names I barely knew. We moved in silence, clearing rooms with military precision. Then I heard it, voices in the storage area. Arguing in what sounded like Russian. Combat erupted fast and brutal. I fought alongside vampires against vampires, the irony not lost on me even as I fired silver rounds into extremists who moved within human speed. Justin was magnificent and terrifying, 1,000 years of warfare condensed into lethal efficiency. Then I saw the wooden stake, thrown with supernatural force, punch through his chest just left of center. He went down hard. I didn't think. Just moved, dragging him behind a refrigeration unit while Nadia covered our retreat. My silver rounds, meant to kill vampires, kept the extremists back long enough for us to extract. Why save me? Justin gasped as I pulled him toward the exit, stake still lodged in his chest. Because you were right. I fired 3 more rounds. Not all monsters are what they seem. We returned to the sanctuary just before dawn. The alarms were already screaming. Volkov's forces hit us with military-grade weapons, explosives, automatic fire, coordinated assault from 3 directions. I fought with vampires to defend ground I'd never expected to call home. Watched Justin's rage transform him into something primal and ancient, slaughtering attackers with centuries of accumulated skill. Watched 3 of his inner circle die. Raphael, who'd survived the Crusades. Yuki, who'd seen the fall of the samurai. Wei, who remembered dynasties I'd only read about in history books. Gone in seconds, reduced to ash in memory. I watched Justin execute one of his own kind without hesitation, without mercy. The rogue had killed a family in Venice Beach, drained a mother and her 2 children in their home. Justin's face showed no emotion as he delivered justice older than any human court. And the terrifying part? I understood it. I understood the necessity, the burden of leadership, the weight of maintaining order in a world humans didn't even know existed. This was the moment everything I'd believed began to crumble. If you want to see how deep this transformation goes, how a hunter falls for the very thing she swore to destroy, subscribe now. Breaking every rule I ever learned. When the fighting ended, I found Justin on the cliff overlooking the ocean, dawn approaching. He didn't turn when I approached, just stood with the wind pulling at his coat, ancient and impossibly alone. Raphael was with me when I was turned, he said quietly. We survived the Crusades together, the Black Death, 2 world wars. And tonight he's gone because I saved you. The weight of that settled over me like stone. 3 vampires dead. Because a hunter was worth saving. Week 2 began with me hunched over Justin's computer system, tracking Volkov's network through hunter databases my access hadn't been revoked from yet. The Council's arrogance worked in our favor. They assumed I was dead or compromised, not actively working against them. I found the connection buried in encrypted files. Dr. Patricia Reeves, geneticist, formerly UCLA, now working privately. Recent purchases of viral vectors, gene sequencing equipment, and compounds I recognized from biowarfare research. They're building something, I told Justin, pulling up shipping manifests. A pathogen. Something that targets vampire biology specifically. He studied the screen, face darkening. To make us visible. Photographs, video, electronic surveillance. We'd show up on every camera in the world. They plan to release it at the UN summit next week. Los Angeles Convention Center. Global media coverage. I pulled up more files. It would shatter the accord. Humanity isn't ready for this. The wars that would follow would destroy both species. He stood, pacing like a caged predator. We need to stop them before they can deploy it. I have an idea. I pulled up my old council contacts. Let me use my handler. Plant false intelligence. I won't make you betray your people. They're not my people. Not anymore. I met his ancient eyes. My people died protecting what you're trying to save. Let me finish their work. The gambit was elegant. I contacted handler Rebecca Fontaine, fed her coordinates to the Santa Monica Pier. Told her Justin would be vulnerable, exposed, meeting with human sympathizers. Meanwhile, Nadia leaked to Volkov's network that the virus lab was being relocated to a warehouse in Long Beach. Both factions mobilized to the wrong locations while Justin's actual team hit the real lab in Pasadena. The operation was surgical. We recovered the pathogen, destroyed 3 years of research, captured Dr. Reeves before she could transmit her data. I took a knife to the shoulder during extraction, extremist guard who'd been better trained than expected, but we got out clean. Back at the sanctuary, Justin cleaned my wound with hands that had practiced field medicine for 1,000 years. His touch was gentle, precise, achingly careful. Why do you do this? I asked through gritted teeth as he stitched. You could let humanity destroy itself. Walk away. Survive whatever comes. Because I remember what it's like to be human. To be fragile. He tied off the suture with practiced efficiency. I was turned during a Crusader ambush in 1095. Left for dead in the desert. An original named Adriana found me, gave me this existence. She taught me that immortality is a gift or a curse depending on what you choose to do with it. He led me to a section of the sanctuary I hadn't seen, a laboratory that would have impressed any research university. Centrifuges, gene sequencers, refrigeration units full of samples. 3 centuries of work, he said quietly. Artificial blood synthesis. If it works, we can evolve beyond predation. Become something new. I stared at racks of research notes in languages spanning millennia. You've been trying to save us. Both species. I've been trying to prove monsters can choose to be something else. The kiss happened not from passion but from recognition. 2 warriors who'd found unexpected understanding in impossible circumstances. His lips were cool, gentle, tasting of centuries of loneliness and hope that had survived empires rising and falling. When we broke apart, his eyes held mine and I saw fear there. Not of death, he'd lived with that for a millennium. Fear of something more dangerous, attachment. This can't happen, he whispered. It already has, I answered. I woke alone. Dawn light streamed through windows where Justin had stood hours before, but the space beside me was empty, sheets already cold. Nadia found me in the kitchen, her ancient face carefully neutral. He's protecting you the only way he knows how. Distance. The council issued a termination order, she continued. You're marked for execution. Vampire collaborator, they're calling it. Treason against humanity. My coffee cup stopped halfway to my lips. When? 3 hours ago. But Justin's been negotiating all night with moderate vampire factions. They've reached an agreement. Volkov will be executed by vampire justice, his extremists disbanded. You're free to go. The threat is lifted. Free to go. Free to leave. As if the past 2 weeks hadn't changed everything. I found Justin in his library, dawn light making him look carved from marble. He couldn't meet my eyes. Last night was a mistake, he said, voice flat. Was it? I'll be alive when everyone you love is dust, Justin said, his voice breaking with a pain that transcended mortality. I'll watch you age, watch you die, and I'll continue. That's not love, Angelina. That's torture. And I realized he wasn't protecting me from his nature. He was protecting himself from the inevitable loss, because in his 1,000 years he'd loved before. He'd buried lovers, friends, entire civilizations. And he couldn't bear to add me to that graveyard of memories. But what if there was another way? What if immortality wasn't the curse he believed it was? Subscribe to discover the truth about vampire transformation and the choice I had to make that would change everything. I buried a human lover in 1347, he continued. Another in 1566. Another in 1789. I won't do it again. So you're deciding for both of us? I'm protecting us both from inevitable suffering. Nadia drove me back to Los Angeles in silence. Her final words at my apartment door. He'll regret this. Probably for the next century. But he's right, loving an original is choosing heartbreak. I resigned from the Hunters Council via encrypted message. Wrote comprehensive testimony about the Accord, my parents' truth, everything I'd learned. Published it anonymously to protected networks where humans and vampires cooperated in secret. Took a job in private security, still protecting people, just different methods. 2 months felt like years. December evening found me at my parents' grave in Griffith Park, talking to headstones like they could hear me. I understand now. Why you did it. Why it mattered. They'd be proud of you. I spun around. Justin stood 10 feet away, hands in his coat pockets, looking exactly as he had the night he'd walked into that burning synagogue. The synthesis is complete, he said. FDA approved for vampire consumption. We're restructuring vampire society, open cooperation with human governments. Drafting a new accord. Public this time. He moved closer. I want you to be part of it. Liaison between human law enforcement and vampire society. Hope flared, dangerous and bright. And us. There's something else. He pulled out a vial of dark liquid. Transformation. 3 days of agony, permanent death of your humanity. You'd be vampire, immortal, powerful, but never human again. Never able to have children, never age naturally, never die. I'm not offering this because I need you to be like me, he continued quietly. I'm offering because the work we're building will take centuries. And I want you there for all of it. I need time. He pressed the vial into my palm. When you're ready. If you're ever ready. January arrived with clarity. I called him at sunset. I'm ready. We drove to the sanctuary in silence. Nadia had prepared my grandmother's tamales recipe, my last human meal. We watched the sun set from the cliffs and I felt no fear. Only certainty. Any regrets? Justin asked. Only that I didn't understand sooner. I drank his blood as twilight painted the sky crimson. The pain was beyond anything I'd imagined. Every cell in my body dying and being reborn as something else. Something stronger. Something eternal. I could hear Justin's voice through the agony, anchoring me to consciousness. Hold on. Just hold on. And I understood why he'd waited 1,000 years to offer this gift. Because transformation isn't just physical. It's the death of everything you were and the birth of everything you could become. 3 days of burning, and then I opened my eyes to a world I'd never truly seen before. If you want to witness what I became and the war we're about to fight together, subscribe now. Because this is where the real story begins. I watched the sun rise over Los Angeles for the first time with vampire eyes, and it didn't burn. Justin's blood made me daywalker, one of the rarest gifts an original could bestow. The city stretched below us, millions of humans living alongside vampires they didn't know existed. Yet, ready to change the world? Justin asked, his hand finding mine. I smiled, fangs sharp and new and strange. We have eternity. Let's not waste it.